Oh, yeah, Monte and the Pharaoh, #1 wrestling podcast, yeah. When it comes to podcasts, they are the cream of the crop, yeah, dig it?
We know what you're thinking. Did they fire off 6 fascinating points of interest or only 5? Well, to tell you the truth, in all the excitement of watching and listening to Long Island's #1 wrestling podcast, I've actually forgotten myself. But being this is the Monte and the Pharaoh podcast, live from Indie Music Studios in Ronkonkoma, and the fact that they were talking to yet another champion wrestling star, one of the most powerful and talented performers from the wrestling franchise, and not to forget, well-informed and provocative interview questions asked and answered. It was such an interesting and entertaining hour, the questions nearly blew your head clean off. Now you've got to ask yourself a question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do ya, punk?
What's up, guys? It's Gina Marie here from Big Brother, and you're watching Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast with Monte and the Pharaoh.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, seen only here out of Indie Music TV, straight out of Ronkonkoma, Long Island. It is a Thursday, and Thursday is the Monte and the Pharaoh show from 9 to 10 p.m. And to the right, well, before I get to the right, across the sea over there is our super producer, Mr. Matty Ice. I played a little trick. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great.
What'd you do while you were away from last Thursday? I really haven't spoken to you.
Pretty much what I always do during the pandemic, and go home and talk to no one.
Talk to no one?
There you go.
No, I'm kidding. I talk to my friends online about it.
I had a little different. Working with you over the last year plus, I have a little bit different picture. For some reason, I just picture you and Pop watching classic movies and having a bud.
Oh, yeah, that's usually on the Saturdays.
That's Saturdays.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
By the way, neither of you commented on me shaving my beard. Not one comment from either of you.
The show just started. Could you give me a little time to observe?
Well, I mean, we've been talking for like the last 45 minutes.
But you told me, I already knew that you had shaved. You actually go, hey, guess what? What? I thought, we got signed to, AEW.
It won't happen again, no. I'll tell you right now, it won't happen again.
What, you're shaving?
Yeah, just...
Wait a minute, but you've done this before, and then you're like, what am I doing? And then you grow it back anyway. Wait a second, you had the Superstar Billy Graham thing going on. Didn't you?
I had the Superstar.
That was cool.
I thought it was pretty cool.
What happened?
I'm going to grow it back.
What made you change? Was it just
I don't know. I wanted to see how much weight I lost. I wanted to see what my face looked like. But
well, you have lost a lot.
Yeah, but I realized that I'm not very good looking without my beard. 802 Blues, what's up? Maria Davis, what's up? We got a great show tonight. Jeff Rumplick, our main man, our art guy. How are you, buddy?
There we go.
Everybody, we got a great show tonight. We've got the SWE executive James Beard will be in studio. We got a lot to talk about. Well, it's actually going to be over VMix.
These things.
Over these things.
These things.
But before we get to that, to the right is the star of the show, Mr. Jimmy Pharaoh. Jimmy. How are you, bud?
Yeah, I'm here. I've been awake for 2 days, so this should be fun.
You're looking good.
Yeah, because I have shades on. I've been awake for 2 days.
You were talking to me about you're going to shave your head, right?
Yeah, I think I'm going to have to. There's some things coming up that would probably require to have much shorter hair in the situation that will be coming. So yeah, I think it might be time again. It's not the first time I've cut off my hair.
How old do you think you look?
I don't know. I
think you look like... I think you could be like early 40s.
I'd like to think that the Pharaoh was timeless. I don't think
Timeless,
about. I don't think about a
timeless
number and an age.
He never ages.
I've been the same since
man who never
1982 up here. I guess that is a problem. Oy.
All right, well, the big news was in the wrestling world anyway. We like to talk politics, but I'm really a little drawn out with that whole
God,
thing.
a week off from politics?
We're a week off from politics.
That works for me.
But, the wrestling experts are in an uproar because the Randy Macho Man Savage A&E documentary came out, and boy, oh boy, people. Conrad, one of the top podcasters out there, right? Conrad, the fat guy with the beard.
No, I don't know.
You don't?
I don't pay attention. Who's Conrad? The fat guy with the beard.
Ric Flair's son-in-law.
Oh, do I? Maybe. All right. Anyway, what does he got to say for himself?
He said the Macho Man documentary was a hatchet job. So basically, dude, you had the Stone Cold documentary, which was pretty benign. It was all wrestling. They really didn't delve into Stone Cold Steve Austin or Steve Williams' troubled situations that we all know that he's had. And by the way, everybody's got troubles. We all know this, right? So no one's perfect.
They didn't concentrate on the downs. They stuck to the ups.
It was a lot of wrestling.
Okay.
The Piper one.
That's fine.
The Piper one was a little more in depth.
Right.
Talked a little bit about his drug use.
Did you like the Piper one?
Loved it.
Yeah, you loved it.
It was great.
Okay. Did you like the Austin one?
Austin one was fantastic.
Okay, so they're both
Now ask me
great.
if I liked the Macho Man one.
Did you like the Macho one?
Loved it.
So what's the issue?
The problem is
what happened?
This is my question.
I have
Before
not
we get
seen
to
it,
Mr.
folks.
Beard, we're probably
As
going to ask
usual.
him to weigh in. A lot of people had problems that they kept Elizabeth as a main part of the Macho Man story, and then they brought Gorgeous George in there for about 20 minutes or so. And I think she was trying to be as respectful as she could, but she did reveal a lot of drug use that Randy Savage did.
Okay.
Surprise to me, by the way. I did not. We've had Lanny Poffo in here a few times, and I'm pretty sure Lanny clearly stated that his brother did not use drugs.
Okay.
I don't know if you remember that. I think I remember that.
I'm sure Lanny would have a problem with what's going on here with this, I'm sure.
So, but let me ask you something. Do you think, isn't Elizabeth synonymous? Is that the right word?
Yeah.
With Randy Savage, right?
The way you finish the sentence, yes, synonymous is correct.
Okay. I mean, I don't really have a problem with it, to be honest with you.
Here's where I'm at, even though I didn't see the documentary. I'm going to address the complaint. The complaint that, it centered a little bit too much on Elizabeth. Well, you know what? And this only enhances your opinion on the whole thing with that fancy word you just threw at the audience.
How do you like that?
I thought it was well done. The deal is this. Batman has been around since 1939.
Right.
When a documentary is done on Batman, if you do not cover Robin, if you do not address Robin properly, because his history, he comes shortly thereafter, and he was a major part of enhancing Batman. So if that's what I'm getting at with Elizabeth and Macho Man. Yes, Macho Man was Batman. He was that big. He was that larger than life. He was that main event. But without Elizabeth, I don't know what Macho Man would exactly... I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And that is no knock on one of the greatest personas and auras I've ever seen in this business. All I am saying is when he was with Elizabeth, bacon became bacon and eggs, and that don't grow on trees, folks. So I'm not surprised that Elizabeth was so
How did you feel about
involved in the
Gorgeous George
documentary.
being part of that documentary?
If you're
And by the way,
telling me-
Hogan was a big part of that documentary.
As he
also.
should be.
I agree.
If you're telling me that she respectfully, she told the truth and she wasn't dirt slinging.
She was not. She was not dirt slinging.
Then
I don't care
okay.
what anyone says. She was not.
Okay, then I don't have an issue with her, if that's the case.
Look, we all have issues, bro. As you know,
Yes.
as I know, we all got issues.
Oh, yeah.
And guess what? If they did a documentary about you, there'd be some shocking shit there.
Oh, my God.
Could you imagine if they did one on Matty Ice?
On Matty Ice. Yeah. And
He got home and he sat there and did nothing.
That's pretty controversial. I don't know. But you know that I really don't hold anything against Macho when I hear these things. I really don't at all. About his intensity or his paranoia or anything else.
Right.
Because, that's how he was wired, man.
I'd like to thank the band that sings the theme song for the Monte The Pharaoh Show, our own Jimmy Farrow, along with his partner, Bart Griggs. They make up the band Wisteria Hall. Wisteria Hall sings such great songs as In My Dreams, This Life, Not Far Behind, Here Comes the Rain, and the Monte and the Pharaoh theme song, Riding High. You can catch their music on Spotify, iTunes, and Reverb Nation. And please go to their YouTube page. Go to the Wisteria Hall YouTube page. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. Show this band a little love.
Thank you.
Got to tell you, man, if you haven't listened to their music, this is not a bunch of bullshit. It is good, very good. Hold on. Excellent. Wait a minute. Great music.
Thank you.
You guys gotta give it a chance. You'll love it. If you didn't notice, this is the Monte The Pharaoh show. This is Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. You can catch Monte The Pharaoh on the Monte The Pharaoh YouTube page, the Monte The Pharaoh Facebook Live page. You can hear us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor. You can catch us on the Monte The Pharaoh Twitch TV page. We're also on New York Cable, where Mr. James Beard interview today will be on the reduced version.
You know, there was a period of silence. You could have chosen your words more carefully. But once again, you go and you take a big fat horse dump on what that show is, the abbreviated, the condensed,
Yes.
the straight
Yes.
to the point.
My brain's getting small.
And it's always with you. It's always this little tiny thing.
Because my brain is working on 2% capacity.
Does your underwear shrivel in the wash because you washed it 17 times?
It's not the only thing that shrivels,
Oh,
brother.
boy, oh, boy.
Channel 115 on New York Cable every Tuesday from 7 to 7:30, and for early risers on Saturday, 6 a.m. to 6:30. You can also catch us on Friday night. Yes, that's right, Friday night. That's just a few hours from now. It's Jimmy Farrow time, 2 a.m. to 2:30 on Channel 20.
Kind of is my time.
We'll be right back after this commercial break with Mr. James Beard, who is part of maybe the biggest upcoming wrestling, call it a federation? Is that too old school?
We're going old school.
Yeah?
We're going old school.
SWE Fury. This guy is one of the major executive, and boy, we got a lot of questions to ask Mr. James Beard after this.
Oi, see you in a sec.
Do you treat your dog as part of the family? Well, so do we. So why not celebrate your pup's birthday with the ultimate party box? Check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Party Pup Info, and let us make your pup's party or any celebration perfection.
And Nitro's Garage for all your automotive needs. Call 646-675-2349. That's 646-675-2349. For all your automotive needs, Nitro's Garage. Ask for Jack.
Jimmy, I gotta take a dump.
What?
No, I mean I need a dumpster.
Well, for all those needs, you need to call Big V Dumpster Rental, Long Island, New York, 631-900-DUMP.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, seen only here out of Indie Music TV in Long Island, New York. Welcoming our special guest, SWE Fury's own, Mr. James Beard. James, how are you doing, buddy?
Doing great, guys. How are you?
How are you holding up with everything going on in the world nowadays? How is it down in Texas?
Well, you know, it's starting to get to springtime now, and then usually we go straight from winter to summer, and that's about it. You know, we don't have too much of a fall, and don't have a whole lot of spring. It just gets hot and cold here, one or the other.
I'll tell you what, I was in the military, so I've been down to Texas. I'm a big fan of Texas. My partner here, the star of the show, Jimmy Farrow, he was in a band. He's been down to Texas. Not so sure if he's a big fan of it, but he'll have to fill you in on that.
How long is winter down there, James? Like 2 weeks?
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
That's what I figured. Actually, no, James, I went to Texas once, and it was very strange. I got pulled over in the middle of the night, and I really wasn't speeding, but I think the New York license plates might have given me away. And the next thing I knew, I was out there for 3 hours. They were asking me if I missed my parents. So that's my Texas memories for you, sir.
There you go, brother.
Oy.
At least it's not Louisiana.
That's exactly what I was about to say.
Wait a minute. I went through there, too. I guess I'm lucky.
Yeah, you are lucky in Louisiana.
Oh, holy Tennessee Jet.
Louisiana, you might still be there.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, that's
that would
for sure.
not be good.
Or you might be in the swamps being tied down and eaten by a gator or something like that.
Right.
I don't know.
Oy.
My first wife was from Louisiana.
Oh, wow.
That's two reasons for me to not go to Louisiana.
Prayers. You could go ahead and say, James, prayers to you, Mike. Prayers. I feel bad for you.
Oh, man.
All right, James, are you ready to go here?
Oh, sure, yeah.
There he goes.
All right, here we go, brother.
Batter up. We were just talking about the Macho Man documentary, James. Any thoughts on? Did you see the documentary? Right. Any thoughts on it?
Yeah. Well, of course, I wasn't around for every detail, but I knew Randy and worked with him. Worked with him in Japan, really, from what I know, it seemed to be a fairly accurate documentary. I mean, I think. Yeah, I heard you guys talking about Elizabeth being a big part of it and Hogan being a big part of it. I think it'd be kind of ridiculous for them not to be honest with you. So,
sure.
I thought it was pretty well done.
Cool.
I will say the same thing, James. I thought they did a great job. In fact, all three of those documentaries are top notch for sure. So, James, setting up for you for a great interview today, and I get home from work last night, kind of getting the notes together and the script together, and bingo bango, we find out that Hannibal, who's one of your main guys, right? He's everybody knows what he's the top guy in this game where we're trying to catch up and take him over. But
in the world,
that being said,
of, YouTube broadcast,
he's a big part of your federation. And he went on to say that he is no longer going to be part of SWE Fury. And then basically he's been accused of trying to start a federation in Texas on his own. Can you weigh in on that?
I can tell you that from what I know, he was never accused by anybody in our office. I talked to Tom Lance today, and he assured me that wasn't the case. And in fact, he sent me the last correspondence they had with each other, text-wise, and it totally is counter to what people are saying right now. And I don't really understand where Hannibal was coming from with that. To be honest with you, a couple of things. Honestly, he was not fired. He was not suspended. It's kind of baffling, to be honest with you. I don't know where he's coming from.
Do you feel like he's doing damage control? Because why would he lie? I'm just curious as to what is his motivation.
Well, I don't know. I've had a good relationship with him, and we've been doing a podcast together.
Okay.
About inside SWE, and I consider him a friend, and it all came as a shock to me, to be honest with you. I didn't know it. I didn't know what was happening, and we had a little bit of an incident at a house show the other night where a kid that he was working with got hurt pretty bad and had to go to the hospital and have stitches and that kind of thing. And I know that Tom and Teddy Long and in fact I talked to him myself a little bit about it. And, it wasn't a big deal. I mean, it was a big deal to the kid that got hurt, but not something that we were going to make a big deal out of. And the next thing I know, the next day, I'm hearing all this stuff about he's leaving. And I hadn't talked to him. We usually do our podcast on Tuesday nights. I didn't hear from him until last night, and it was just a text. And he basically told me the same thing, that it was an office decision and the management decision, and being part of the management, that was news to me. But and also Tom sent me the correspondence they had with each other, and it was very friendly and back and forth, and it made no sense to me what's been said over the last day or so. I don't understand it, to be honest with you. I don't get it.
What is this going to mean to SWE?
But I can say this.
But
well, I mean, he's a big help to us. There's no question about that. He gave us a lot of exposure, and he did have some money invested in Blood Hunter and Blood Hunter's opponents, and also with Selena, and I mean that's just a fact. We're not denying that at all.
Okay.
That was something he wanted to do. Something to help himself as well.
Okay.
So
understood.
Well, is there any way that you and Tom can negotiate with Blood Hunter and try to keep Blood Hunter around and let Hannibal go on his own way?
Oh, you mean like keep the gimmick? Wow. What do you think there, James? Any shot of that? Oh boy.
Well, it would be okay with me, and Tom made it very clear to him that he's welcome to come back.
There you go. Okay.
we thought maybe that he was just tired. He spent a lot of money being in Texas and not being able to go home to Canada, and we thought maybe he just needed a break. And I've got it text back and forth to he and Tom talking about that, and Tom offered, and he said, anytime you want to come back, you're welcome. So the whole thing is just kind of odd.
Was the physicality actually, did that have legs? Because I had heard something about Just Incredible months back had actually walked out on him during a match. Was there true concern about his physicality in the ring?
There was some with some guys, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think some guys thought he was a little dangerous. He was very, very snug. I'll put it that way.
Snug.
And yeah. And,
gotcha.
And there were some guys that don't like that. They don't like working with that. And but it was one of the things that got him over. There's no question about that. And he was a big help to us in that way. But and we're really kind of presenting a different kind of style anyway. It's just a little more of a believability factor involved in it, and definitely a little tighter work. But and he took it a little bit beyond that sometimes. But everybody's different. Some guys. He had a match with Rodney Mack a couple of I guess about 3 weeks ago at a rodeo arena, and it was as brutal as any match I've ever been involved in. And I was refereeing it. We chased them all over the arena, and they were killing each other. And after it was over with, Rodney just smiled and went on. And then some other guys, they would get in a match like that, and they'd probably complain about it. But this is the way it is.
I got to ask you, with the timing of this news with Hannibal, and I'm saying this respectfully. Hopefully, you'll understand it when I say this, because I do like the product and I like the direction that it was heading in. But when this happens today, because of Hannibal's presence within the broadcast, YouTube world, I almost feel like whether it was intended or not on the company's part, I almost feel like you accidentally might have shot yourself in the foot. What does the company do now to get out there for the fans to help boost it? Because I do believe his presence was helping it on YouTube for sure.
Well, there's no question about that. We certainly understand that and appreciate that. He was told that. I don't know that the company shot ourselves in the foot, because we didn't do anything. There was absolutely nothing done by anybody in the company to force him out or try to get him to leave. In fact, just the opposite. And
fair enough.
Why he decided to take that approach, I guess I don't understand, because we had a good relationship. And as far he and I personally, we had a very good relationship, and I don't know. It's just really strange.
Have you guys had conversations amongst yourself, like with Teddy and, of course, the main brain trust of the company? Like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're all a little I guess, puzzled by it.
Fair enough.
I don't know if it's, I don't know if maybe he just, he did say that he'd spent a lot of money, and that's true. And he's been down in Texas for a while, and he couldn't go back home, or couldn't go back and forth. I think that's what the problem was. But I don't know. I don't know what the motivation is. All he had to do was just say, I need to take a break, and that would be okay. It wouldn't be a problem, and it still isn't. As far as we're concerned. Well, I don't know what else we could have done. We didn't do anything to force him out. I'll put it that way.
Understood.
Well, we're big fans of your federation, so we're hoping this doesn't really set you guys back. We've been rooting for you guys for a long time. So if I could just weigh in, I'd probably say you better start hanging your hat on Lacey Von Erich a little bit. That might be the answer.
Well, Lacey's a big help also. She's a presence, and not necessarily in the ring wise, but as far as getting some attention and doing some publicity type things for us, she's a big help with that.
Without a doubt. All right, so we're going to pull back a little bit. We're going to talk about some of your WCCW days. Were you around Steve Austin when he was down in that federation at all?
Oh yeah, I was there from the time, actually before he even started. He was in Chris Adams' school down there, and I worked some of his first matches. So we've known each other a long time. He would, we worked together. He'd come over to my house and watch the tape and all that stuff. I knew him very well.
So let me ask you this. When he was down there, so we were talking about the documentaries and maybe the light that Savage, which you clearly said Savage was portrayed properly there. Do you think they went light on Austin considering the problems that he's had with some of his ex-wives and some of the rumors that have happened?
I honestly have not seen that documentary yet. I guess I need to watch it. I knew Steve well. I knew Jeannie. I know that they had some issues, and Tony had some issues. I mean, she and Tony had some issues. Chris Adams' wife, and it was just it was a kind of an odd situation down there for them. Really uncomfortable situation after Steve and Jeannie started seeing each other outside the wrestling business, and their relationship got kind of weird too after a while. And I know she wrote about that in her book. If you read that, she was pretty candid about all that. And Steve's other relationships, I really don't know that much about because I wasn't around him that much after he left Dallas.
Knowing Austin from the very beginning, basically, did you foresee the magic of the career this guy wound up having? I mean, my Lord.
I knew he was going to be successful. I mean, you never know that a guy's going to be that over the top successful. He was determined. He was a guy that watched all the matches and paid attention. He asked questions. He's a very studious type guy in the background, and he was always willing to train and learn different things. So he just had all those aspects, all those traits that you knew were going to lead him somewhere successful, and he was determined. And when he got to WCW, he was very. He got to a point where he was very, very, I guess, disillusioned with how they were using him, and I talked to him a little bit back in those days. In fact, I was with him at one point and went up and spent some days with him at his house and went on tour with him. I could tell at that point he was getting a little frustrated. And he was just one of those guys that was determined, and I knew that when he got that opportunity, it was going to happen for him.
How did you feel about the Hollywood Blondes? Because my partner and I were talking about that earlier this week. Do you feel at that time that Austin was frustrated with that gimmick? Do you think that team got enough love at the time? Because they certainly didn't attain Road Warrior status.
Well, let me tell you a story. I told you I went up there and stayed with him a little bit. And in fact, I went on the road. That was when Bill Watts was booking WCW. Mm-hmm. And I was actually going up there to talk to Bill, maybe about going to work for him. I didn't know whether I wanted to even do that or not. But I went up there and spent about a week with Steve and went on the run with him and Scott Anthony, actually, Raven. That's who he became. But anyway, we were at one of the shows and we were sitting in the dressing room, and Bill came down and called Steve over to the side. I mean, he was right there in the dressing room, but in front of everybody. And I could tell Steve wasn't happy about something. I didn't know what it was at the time. But that was the night Bill told him that they were going to put him with Pillman and make the tag team.
And Steve was mad.
And well, yeah, very. Because he had been told that he was going to be pushed kind of as the guy that comes up after Flair, the guy that takes that spot, and
right.
And he was aiming for that, and man, let me tell you, after that show, we drove home. He didn't say a word. He was really hot. We got home, got to his house in Atlanta, and he had to get out, and he got on this motorcycle and rode up around and around. He had about a 10-acre property there, and Jeannie said he's mad about something. I said, yeah, he sure is, and he was just steaming over that. And I think eventually he came to appreciate the tag team, and it worked out well for him. But
right.
Man, he was not a happy camper.
Right. Well, you've given us a glimpse into Austin's beginnings. How about a glimpse into your beginning? How do you get started in pro wrestling?
I was playing music in the Dallas area and got to know some of the guys. They'd come into different places where I'd be, and I've been a wrestling fan all my life, really, and kind of had a clue, I guess. And when they'd get to talking to you, and they'd find out that, and then just kind of like talking to the boys,
right.
And eventually they kind of goaded me. Actually, Bruiser Brody was one of the main guys, and kind of goaded me into trying it, and I thought, well, I'll do it just for fun, see how I like it. And next thing I know, I'm working some shows around Dallas, and the next thing I know, I'm working at the Sportatorium, and then I got a gig in Japan, and music had to take a back seat after that.
What instrument were you playing? I always ask these things. The Pharaoh's a musician, so.
yeah. I played some keyboards, and I was mainly the lead singer on all those bands I was in over the years.
Very nice, very nice. So you took the Hulk Hogan highway. He started as a bass player. The next thing you know, he's main eventing WrestleMania.
Yeah. Well, I didn't get to do that, but
that's all right. You got in the door, Rabbit. You got in the door.
I did do that.
So, James, you mentioned the Sportatorium. Pharaoh and I, we're WWE homers, right? We grew up in the Northeast.
Sure.
But once the inception of cable came in, we started catching some of these other programs.
Oh, yeah.
And certainly WCCW with the Von Erichs, right? And the Freebirds. Tell me about your relationship with the Von Erichs, especially maybe Kerry, because I've always been a huge Kerry fan.
Yes,
Yes, you man, have. Oh, man. Go ahead.
I was probably closer to Kerry than any of them. I really didn't get to spend a lot of time around David. I knew him, but he died before I actually got into the business, and I got to know Kevin very well, and still communicate with him once in a while, But Kerry I was probably closer to Kerry than any of them, and just a sweetheart of a guy, really. You couldn't ask for a nicer guy. I mean, everybody has their issues, and they're all the stories are out there, and you hear all of them. Some of them are exaggerated, some of them are true. But Kerry was a super guy, just a sweetheart.
The level of heartbreak had to be unbearable when he left.
No.
Yeah,
I was in Japan. I was on a tour in Japan at the time, and they called and told me about it. And of course, I had some of the guys from the Sportatorium with me there, and I had to break the news. It was a pretty tough week. We still had another several days, and we didn't get back in time for the funeral, and it was tough. It really was. He was a special guy.
Knowing him the way you did you ever fear that something like this, a sudden end, would come to him?
Well, I hate to say it, but yeah, part of me was not 100% shocked, because Kerry would even talk about that sometimes, about going to be with his brothers, and he was pretty despondent about some personal things at the time, and I'd talked to him and worked with him just before I left to go to Japan that time, and I tried to encourage him, things are going to be okay. He had some legal issues that he was dealing with, and I just knew that if he'd just deal with them and get it over with, he'd be all right. But, I guess it just got to be too much for him.
My partner absolutely adores Kerry, so I ask you, and I know that the real answer is all the Von Erichs were truly great, especially back in the day. But is Kerry the greatest Von Erich of all? I personally lean towards David, but that's me.
It depends on how you look at it. If you're talking about charisma, I've never been around a wrestler that had the charisma that Kerry Von Erich has, and I'm talking about anybody, Hogan, anybody, just natural. And he was so athletic for a guy that weighed 265, 70 pounds. He could fly around before he hurt his leg, especially, and he was just an amazing athlete. Of course, Kevin was a great athlete as well, but when it comes down to just who I think was probably destined to have the greatest. Maybe the greatest influence in wrestling, it would have to be David. He was the guy with the head on his shoulders, the guy who had the ability to work as a heel and get heat, and enjoyed doing that. And I think he was. You hear all the stories and rumors about they were grooming him to take the NWA title, and I've heard that from people who were inside and knew that was exactly the case. So I have to believe that was probably true.
On the old school approach, I wanted to throw this in. How do you feel about Randy Orton? Because Randy Orton, because he works for Vince, and a lot of the independent fans tend to target Randy Orton often. I think Randy Orton's absolutely old school, especially in the vein of Southern wrestling. Am I missing something about Randy Orton? He's old school.
You're spot on. He's
thank you.
Well, he's just another Orton. I mean, his granddad was that, and his dad was. I worked with his dad many times over in Japan, and he's a chip off the old block, and yeah, he's probably the best worker in the business.
Thank you.
All right, with that, we'll be right back with SWE Fury's executive, Mr. James Beard, after this commercial break.
We'll be right back.
That's right, folks. Canine Corral for all your dog daycare and overnight care. Call 631-549-1544. That's 631-549-1544. Oh, what's up, Mike?
Hey, Jimmy, what's going on?
Yeah, nothing much.
You know, Jimmy, I love this country.
Oh.
I love to buy made-in-America material. And I love to buy my artwork at TAG, T-A-A-G, Made in America, 14 East Broadway, Port Jefferson, New York, 11717. The shop at the corner.
The Monte and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, only seen here out of Indie Music TV in Long Island, New York, with our special guest, Mr. James Beard.
All right, James, I want to throw one at you. This one bothers me as the historian side of me has a lot of issues with this. Gary Hart is one of the greatest managers ever. If there was a penthouse, I do believe he deserves to be there, because a heel manager's job is to force the viewer into complete despisal. I despise this man. I'm going to reach into the set and choke him. Any thoughts on what I consider one of the most underrated managers ever, Gary Hart? Because I feel like he's getting lost in the sands of time.
Well, first of all, Gary was a very dear friend and a guy I consider one of my mentors, really. I learned so much from Gary. You're right. He was a special kind of a manager that's really unusual. He was understated. You know, he a lot of times he'd make you think that he was giving the praise to his opponent, and he just almost real sinister in that way. You know, and a lot of people were scared to death of him, and he was. You know, he was a street tough guy, no question about that, but he was a sweetheart of a guy, too. I loved Gary, great friend, and you're right, he should be remembered by more people as one of the greatest managers of all time.
There you go.
James,
absolute agreement.
One of the great things about SWE Fury, and I think some of these old school fans like the Pharaoh and myself, is that you're kind of bringing the family members that are wrestlers into your organization. For example,
yes.
You have Miranda Gordy, who wrestles in your organization. Huge fan of the Freebirds. Can you compare Terry Gordy to Miranda in some sort of fashion?
Oh, wow. Here's the big difference is Terry started when he was like 13 years old. And Miranda really kind of got into the business later, and you know, there's a learning curve there that she hasn't had the opportunity to have that Terry had. So you know, it's almost like apples and oranges, you know, to compare the two. She has some of her dad's traits, no question about that. She's a tough gal, but she just needs more experience and more exposure to people that are better than her, that can teach her a little bit more, and you know, that's one of those things that we'll just see what happens with her. I think she has a chance to make some waves in this business if she just sticks with it and really works hard.
Now, is this by design that you're bringing in these family members? Because I love that whole setup. You guys are doing such a great job with that. It's you know, you're bringing some old, like I said, old school guys like Gangrel in there, and then you've got these young guys, and
then they bring Teal Piper.
Yeah, well done.
And then they've got that.
Yeah, we intend to do more with Teal. The intent is to have her featured in we keep hearing how well she can talk. We haven't really given her the opportunity to do that yet.
Right.
You know, that's the hard thing about what we're doing right now, because we fought through this COVID thing, and we had to tape like 3 episodes every night. Sometimes there was 4. We're trying to fit, you know, a whole lot into a little bit of time, and it's really hard to kind of get all that together and do that.
Mm-hmm.
But the plan is to have Till more involved in doing some of the things that we hear she is capable of doing, and I'm looking forward to working with her on that. And as far as the other siblings and family members and all, that's been, we want to honor the legacy of wrestling, and that's partly been done on purpose to kind of make those connections. We want to do it in a way that not condescending to any of them, but you know, we want to use them in a way that they're the most useful, not just throw them in there and say, hey, you know, this is Kerry Von Erich's daughter, or this is Terry Gordy's daughter, or you know, whatever. We're trying to give them a role that they're more comfortable in, and they're useful in, and they can help us in some way. But we don't want to make something of it that it's not. The main thing we're trying to do in SWE is we're trying to bring back some, I guess, believability, something that the fans can trust in and know that, you know, if you watch this program, that you're not going to have your intelligence insulted. We're going to have fun with it. We're going to do some things that are exciting and have all different styles and all, but the end result is we want people to believe, because we're going to believe in ourselves. And I think that's one thing that's missing in wrestling right now, is that everybody thinks it's a joke, and it's not. You know, if you take yourself seriously, the fans will take you seriously. I don't care how much they know. And that's what we're shooting for.
Well, here's one of the things that I love, too, but I have to ask you this question. Your new champion's Charlie Haas, right? I'm correct there?
Mm-hmm.
Why did you go away from Tim Storm? Tim Storm was coming off of NWA. I thought it was such a smart move, you guys bringing him in there, and also, boom, gone. Can you explain what happened to Tim Storm?
Yeah, Tim and I are very, very close. When we started SWE Fury, he's the first guy I called. And I knew that we needed credibility there at the top, and I knew that he needed somebody there that could represent us in a way that we wouldn't be embarrassed by, no matter what. And Tim fits all those criteria. And so he had it. And the truth is even from the very beginning, he understood that we were trying to go to a point where I prefer having heels on the top, babyfaces chasing. I think that's a kind of a traditional way of looking at it, but
sure.
That's what I think draws the most interest, because that keeps the babyfaces searching and fighting for the top, and fans interested in how they get there. And so, you know, from the very beginning, Tim understood that it was going to be a limited thing for him to carry the title, you know, and we started working toward that from the very beginning with another guy, actually, that ended up not panning out for the long haul, but it was just a time, you know. He had it for a year and a half, I guess, something like that, and he knew that it was time, and then of course the NWA thing started back up again, and I talked to Tim, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks ago, and he's pretty content with what he's doing there right now, and hopefully they'll treat him right, and it'll turn out the best for everyone. But there'll probably be a point in time when Tim will be back with SWE at some point. That's just my feeling.
I was thinking about, because, you know, you are in your evolutionary phase, you're growing and you're hoping to get bigger. It made me think of ECW, and there's 2 major things about ECW's growth that I thought were very key, and I wanted to ask you how difficult it is for you to deal with this. The 2 things were being able to grow your own talent and build them up and get your audience to become familiar with them, and also simultaneously being able to balance veterans with names, guys like a Tim Storm, or unfortunately with Hannibal. Hannibal's a name, especially in the YouTube world. You know, how difficult is it to be able to give a weekly program that has synchronicity, that a fan can latch onto storylines, yet you're still trying to grow your own product with your own young guys and balance the veterans? How difficult is this, and how difficult is it going to be going forward now that Tim Storm and Hannibal are gone?
Well, it is difficult, and you hit on something that we talk about regularly, and something that I've been harping on for ever since we started this promotion. And you know, it's true. You have to have some way to get these guys over, and you have to expose them to talent that's already over in order to do that. And that's where you use those veterans that you bring in, and hopefully use them in the right way so that it's building something underneath there. And then you got the issue of trying to find the right talent that you're building. You know, the right guys, somebody who has those traits that you know can get over and become more than just another guy. And we've got a couple of guys that we're you know, probably 3 or 4 guys right now that we're kind of concentrating on that I think if we can get them the right kind of exposure and the right kind of situation, I think they have the chance to become those guys that we're looking for. And of course, we're always still looking for more talent too.
Sure.
You know,
you gotta be.
The guys, yeah. One of the difficult things about bringing in established talent, guys that people are familiar with, is if you bring them in and you rely on that too much, then it actually stunts the growth of some of those guys. So
Absolutely.
you have to. There's a balance there that you have to be careful with, and
Absolutely.
And we're trying to find that balance, and it's a, you know, it's not easy. It's like walking that tightrope.
I know it may sound strange, but you might want to look back at those early ECW days and see how Heyman would intertwine like a Sid Vicious,
better yet,
or Eddie Guerrero.
Better yet, Pharaoh. It's a good point. But James, I would say this: both of us are big fans of SWE Fury. We are certainly concerned, especially what's going on with Hannibal right now, and we spoke about James Storm. But you do have one of the greatest, probably, wrestling minds working with you.
Oh, yeah.
Is there any chance that you would have Kevin Sullivan start assisting with the organization at a certain level, a higher level? He's already booking.
Yeah, he and Teddy Long and myself get together twice a week. And work on the TV.
That's great.
On the storylines themselves, the three of you, the storylines?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So James, I asked...
And that's an issue also. You know, when we're in the situation we're in right now, we don't have a billionaire backing us. So we don't have the money to just guarantee all these guys all this much money for so many years, whatever.
Right.
So we're in a situation where we have to make sure that we've got some talent that we can depend on that's going to be there for whatever that duration is, you know. So it makes it even harder to create storylines and angles and sustain them, because you're dealing with that situation that we're in. And you know, at some point, if we can get in the right situation financially, then we'll probably be able to do a little bit better job of that. But it's a real trick right now.
I just realized too, you need a killer accountant.
James, first of all, I want to thank you for your candid answering, because we're not throwing softballs at you, and I really do appreciate you being that way.
Absolutely.
I want to cover for the fans who may have. You got it. And for the fans who may have missed it, according to you, you don't understand what happened with Hannibal. It wasn't what he said, and the door is still open for him because you realize there's a benefit there with Hannibal. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I have it. I have it in black and white. You know, I know what the conversation was, and I'm really disappointed that it's taken the turn that it's taken. I hope that, you know, that people understand that SW, we're not that crazy. We know how much he assisted us in getting attention and the exposure that we've gotten. There's no question about that. It just baffles me that this was handled the way it was handled, and I do know for a fact that you know, like I said, he was not fired, he was not suspended, the title was not taken away from Blood Hunter. We have the door open, you know, and I don't know what else to say about it. I wish it hadn't been done the way it was done, but you know. It is what it is.
All right, with that, we're going to take a quick commercial break, and we'll be back with SWE Fury's executive, Mr. James Beard.
Tag America, representing the very best of American ingenuity, craftwork, and creative arts. Handcrafted wood flags, yard signs, 9-line apparel, artisan candles, and outdoor garden accessories. Custom commissioned murals, portraits, and signed by artist owners and residents. Grand opening May 23rd. Wrestling superstar and former world champion and Mr. USA Tony Atlas will be there from 12 to 4 for limited edition print signing. Free line dancing classes 1 to 4. Rain date for line dancing June 6th. Raffle prizes where 100% of proceeds will go to Tunnel to Towers Foundation and 10% of net proceeds of in-store sales as well. Military, police, firefighters, healthcare workers, we want your signatures on our wall of honor. Easy to find, fun to browse. 14 East Broadway, Port Jeff, opposite the ferry, in the Lighthouse Landing Shops, 2 doors from Echoland Jewelers. Come visit us at 14 East Broadway, Port Jeff, or call 631-741-2344. Because made in America matters.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte the Pharaoh, seen only here out of Indie Music TV in Ronkonkoma, New York. I want to remind fans out there, May 23rd, Mr. USA Tony Atlas will be with Tag America. They're having their grand opening in Port Jefferson, and we are auctioning, raffling, let me use the right word. What do you think, that's about 3 feet there, Pharaoh? Is that a 3-foot picture? This picture is worth about $3,500. It will be signed by Tony Atlas. It's a picture of the Tony Atlas pressing the incredible Hulk Hogan in Shea Stadium. For only $10, you could go to www.montethepharaoh.com and buy a raffle ticket where you'll get that number, or you could call Tag America, which you just heard that commercial straight, and get it now. And by the way, all these raffle will be given to Towers, Tunnels for Towers, and they're the ones that actually the police officer who was struck down by that drunk lady, which we discussed last week, they paid the mortgage of that family. So please,
there you go.
Guys, you're not just getting this incredible picture and taking a chance on it. You are helping a organization that helps our men in blue and our men in red and these people who carry this country. So please, I reach out to you May 23rd. Come on down if you're in New York, and if you're not, please donate. That's all we're asking here at Monte the Pharaoh. Anyway, we're back with the great James Beard. Pharaoh, you're on, brother.
All right, let's hit it. James, what I've been watching every episode since the beginning. I think you're around 17 or 18 TV episodes now. I don't quote me, but I think I'm close. I've been enjoying not just the wrestling, but the crowds are getting bigger with each taping and stuff. Has it surpassed your expectations at this point? The response to the company, the attendance, or did you hope to be even further ahead? Where are you at as far as how you've been responded to by the audience?
Well, it's been really kind of amazing to me, because when we started this thing, it was kind of a whim. We did a house show, and I've known Tom Lance, our chief operating officer, for over 30 years. He was promoting back in the days of World Class, and so I knew him from way back. And he asked me when people came to him about doing a fundraiser type thing, and he asked me if I'd book it for him, and I said, well, sure, So we did it, and it turned out really well, and he said, well, let's do another one, and we're going to tape it and see what happens. So we did that, and the next thing we know, we're getting contacted by people, for streaming and that kind of thing, and it just kind of built from there. And we were determined that if we were going to do this, we were going to try to present a product that was different, an alternative, and stick with it. Not cop out like so many of them have done in the past, and end up being another copycat, and so we've stuck with that pretty much, and we're trying to build on that, and I've been very pleased with the success that we've had to this point.
Excellent. One of the things that I do like about the program is that you do have bruisers. I'm not saying I'm not a fan of a lot of the athleticism that goes on today with the gymnastics and stuff. Maybe I'm not if I say gymnastics, right, Mike?
Yeah, you go.
It depends. It really depends. But I am a big fan of the bruisers, and I love the fact that you have a few over there. Your thoughts on my personal favorite, and yes, I'm friends with the guy. I love him. The enforcer, Andrew Anderson. the bruiser type, plus his his background, being in the movies like The Wrestler and Gotham. He's a good catch for you guys. Any thoughts on what it's been like working with the Reinforcer?
Well, I've known Andrew a long time. When I was running the NWA for several years, and I got to know Andrew back in those days, and he was running a promotion up there in New York or New Jersey called Big Apple, NWA Big Apple. And we got to be very, very good friends, and so yeah, he was one of the guys that we brought in from the very beginning, and he's a good friend, and he works hard, and he knows a lot of people. Andrew, and
sure.
So I'm very happy that he's starting to find some. I think he's starting to really have fun with it now. At first, I think he was kind of trying to find himself a little bit, but I think we're doing some things with him right now that I think he's enjoying, and I'm looking forward to what we do in the future.
Yeah, as a fan, I enjoyed the last match I saw because there was some bruising going on. So good job there,
James. What would you be? Go ahead, James. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that having the bigger guys and the guys that are a little more physical, that's something that we did on purpose. Absolutely. I mean, we want a little bit of everything. We got some guys that can fly around too, but for the most part, we want guys that this old Texas style. That's how we promote it.
Right.
Listen, I think you guys are pushing all the right buttons, and like I said, I just don't want to get in the fear of losing some of these major players that have helped building this company, because you guys are making a difference right now. James, for the fans out there, what would you say is your biggest role in SWE Fury?
My biggest role?
Yes, sir.
My title is talent relations, and I think that's probably a big part of it. Because I've been very fortunate to have good relationships in this business over the years, and a lot of younger guys that I've gotten to know and I'm able to relate to, and even though I'm an old guy, and I kind of set my ways as far as wrestling goes, but I think being able to relate to those guys is a big part of it. The creative side of it, being able to contribute to that's something I've been doing since 30 years ago. A lot of times in the background without people knowing about it, but I did it, and I think that's I'll book the whole thing by myself for the first several months, and then Teddy came on and started getting some input there, and then the last I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 months, Kevin has started working with us, and I think just being able to contribute to that is a big part of my role in the company, and that and the relationships with the talent.
Teddy Long has worn many, many hats in this business over the years. Thoughts on Teddy Long's creative mind? Because I'm not sure fans know too much about that side of Teddy.
Well, I don't think he's had a chance to show that a whole lot. Other than being the face of like the general manager of Raw or whatever. And Teddy started out just like I did as a referee, and then he got into managing a little bit, and of course they found out he could talk, and I think he was in radio at one time, so he was a talker, and I think he's really enjoying the fact that he's being able to express some of the creative side of things that he sees and feels, and he's a big part of that. We all contribute to it. We all get along very well. I mean, it's kind of a strange thing because we all are in different areas. Kevin is up in the northwest, and Teddy's in Atlanta, and I'm in Texas, and we get together twice a week to cuss and discuss and try to put this thing together, and for the most part, we all three have basically the same philosophy about wrestling, and even though we have some different ideas sometimes, all seems to work out. We don't argue, we don't fuss. We just try to have the best product that we can, and Teddy's a big part of that.
As you mentioned, all three of you guys are from different parts of the country, so I gotta ask: do you see the company expanding, possibly coming this way?
At some point, I think. Yeah, we would like to do that. I mean, we really had the intention when we first started is to be more regional, but the more that we get a little exposure here, a little exposure there, and we've had a lot of people reaching out to us in different parts of the country now that want to see our product, and so I think we've kind of changed our minds about that a little bit, that we might step out some. I don't want to overreach. I want us to take the steps to get to where we want to go. But yeah, I can see at some point that we'll probably expand it to up in your part of the country, and maybe hopefully people will enjoy our brand, our product.
How's it working out with Big Cass so far? Your experiences with Cass?
I don't know him well. Met the first night he came in was the first time I'd ever been around him. He was very polite, very respectful, and done everything we've asked him to do. Don't know what his situation is contractually. I've heard that he has something going on with Impact. I don't know if that's true or not. He seems to enjoy working with us. That's what he's expressed. We'll see. I mean, I'd like to think he'd be around for a while and we could do some things with him. He's so far he's been very pleasant to work with.
You have Enzo Amore coming in too?
Yeah, originally I think he was just coming in to do a signing type thing, but he is actually going to wrestle on this next TV taping. So we'll see how that goes. I don't think there's any intent to put those guys together again right now. I don't think that's something that we're shooting for. But and I don't even know that Enzo will be back in more than one appearance. But we'll see what happens there.
Right, Enzo's a firecracker. You might want to get him on that mic.
So James, we spoke about
I'm sure we will.
Yeah.
We spoke about your relationship with Kerry Von Erich. Did you watch Lacey Von Erich grow up?
I knew Lacey when she was probably 2 or 3 years old, and she was about that age when Kerry died. And of course, after that, we kind of lost contact. And I didn't see them. Her and her sister Holly. They were kind of Holly, especially because she was a little bit older, and it was kind of like a little buddy. You know, we always had a really good relationship. I'd go up and sit with her in the stand sometimes and talk to her. And actually, this last weekend was the first time I'd seen Holly in years and years, and it was a great experience to get to see her again and kind of relive some of that. I didn't even know if she would remember me, to be honest with you. She was so small, and the first time she saw me, she told me you got a big hug around the neck, and she said, "Man, that was some of the most special times I can remember." And that meant a lot to me, because Kerry meant a lot to me, and those girls were special.
Well, Lacey's a bit of a lightning rod. Cornette did a little a thing on her, and let me ask you this: I could see your company pushing towards Lacey. Does she get a lot of heat with the boys?
Interesting.
No, not really. She's very polite with the guys. Here's the thing about Lacey. She was, like I said, she was very young when Kerry died, so she really didn't grow up in this business. She was kind of brought into it at a later stage and didn't experience it the same way that her dad did and her uncles did.
Okay.
So she has a different perspective about the business than they had. And I think I had a long talk with her the other night, and we talked about how one of the reasons that World Class was so well received and her dad and her uncles were so famous and so over is because they took themselves seriously. Just like I talked about earlier about the promotion has to take itself seriously. They did that, and that's what the people believed in them. And we talked about that, and I think she understands. She's a very intelligent young lady. She was a valedictorian in her high school class, so she's not a dummy by any means. And I think a lot of her antics that you've seen earlier on, I think was just her trying to have fun and not really knowing exactly what we expected and what she was, what her role was going to be. And I think she understands that a little bit better now. And I think that's going to show in the future because she's very serious about trying to help us. And I know Jim pretty well, and he just says what he sees, and that got to be kind of funny, in a way for her that she's kind of making jokes about it. But she's a very smart gal, and I think she has a lot that she can contribute to us if we use her in the right way, and she understands what we want, and I think she's getting there.
I agree 100%. Look, I'm not in a business, I'm not a booker, but I'm going to tell you, don't lose that magic. I mean, the moment she goes up to Kevin Nash and doesn't know who Kevin Nash is a classic moment. And I'm going to tell you, if she could keep that whole vision, it's incredible.
It works.
All roads lead through Lacey, in my opinion.
It works.
It works.
She is a talented lady. I mean, and when you sit down and talk to her, you realize just how smart she is. And of course she has that knack for playing the dumb blonde, but she's not that at all. And just like I said, it's just a matter of her finding her way and finding what her role is and how she can contribute and help us grow. And I think she's starting to understand that now, and I think it's going to be a big benefit to us.
Well, if you guys could take Miranda Gordy and get Lacey together and do some kind of Freebird Von Erich angle, it would be pretty hot.
Hello.
Anyway, we're almost out of time, James. Pharaoh's going to hit you with his final question, and I want to thank you for being such a gentleman and answering all these questions.
Absolutely.
And you and the crew are doing a great job with SWE Fury. Pharaoh?
James,
thank you so much for that. That means a lot.
Absolutely. Thank you very, very much. But I'm going to hit you with something. Now, normally when we have our guest on, we ask them, who is your Mount Rushmore of pro wrestlers? But in your case, I want to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to ask you, Mr. Beard, give me your Texas Mount Rushmore. Now, this becomes difficult because you're talking about the Funks, you're talking about the Von Erichs, you're talking about the Freebird, you're talking about so many. But you got to give me 4 faces.
Don't forget about the Blanchards.
There's others too. Yeah. There's more families. There's a million. You got to give me 4 faces that you would put on the Texas Pro Wrestling Mount Rushmore. Who are they?
Well, I'll only give you 4. Man, that is tough.
I'm sorry to do that, but I had to because of your Texas legacy.
That's okay. That's okay. I'll give it a whirl and see what happens. You may ask me this tomorrow, and I have 4 different ones.
That would be fair enough too. That would be fair enough too.
Yeah, I'd have to put Fritz on it.
Okay, Fritz Von Erich.
Just knowing his legacy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Dory Jr.
Dory Funk Jr.
And Terry.
And Terry. That makes sense. You got 1 more.
Yeah, and wow. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I'm leading towards a Von Erich, but I'm
going to change. Okay. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take one that really didn't do that much in Texas, but he represented Texas in a way that was beyond. Stan Hansen.
Wow. Oh,
there you go, brother.
I love that.
That's awesome. All right, James, we want to thank you, and what an incredible interview, and we look forward to seeing SWE Fury in the future, and we're wishing you and the team great luck.
Thank you so much, guys. Anytime.
Thanks, James.
You got it, buddy.
You, man. That was awesome.
That was incredible.
That was awesome. Great guest.
All right, everybody, if you didn't notice, you are watching Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte the Pharaoh, only seen here out of Indie Music TV. Catch Monte the Pharaoh on the Monte the Pharaoh YouTube page, the Monte and Pharaoh Facebook Live page. Hear us on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Anchor. In New York, watch us on Channel 115 every Tuesday from 7 to 7:30. And for early risers, Saturday, 6 a.m. to 6:30 on Channel 115. Also, catch us on Friday at Channel 20 at 1:30 in the morning to 2 a.m. I want to remind everybody this Saturday at 11 a.m., please join us as we have ECW legend Mr. Bill Alfonso in studio.
Awesome.
Very, very excited
awesome.
to have him in here.
One of my all-time faves.
If anyone didn't know it, obviously we're up against the dark side of the ring, the first part 1 on Brian Pillman. Before we cut out, your thoughts on Brian Pillman there, Pharaoh?
Oh, man, if this turns into our phone conversation, we're going to be here a while. But Brian Pillman, what spearheaded our conversation in the first place about
I said that I posted on the Monte the Pharaoh Twitter page that I felt that Brian Pillman was a second-rate wrestler. And when I mean second-rate, I don't think second-rate. He was a second-thought wrestler. No, a second thought. Like he wasn't the guy you thought about. And I'm going to say quite honestly, if Brian Pillman didn't pass away the way he did, I still feel that way.
Okay.
But again, what do I know?
No, that's fine. That's fine. I think my answer to you during the week regarding Brian Pillman was how many, wrestlers. If Brian Pillman is a special case because the back of the baseball card doesn't necessarily scream, a legend. But the thing that made Brian Pillman legendary were as I told you, two major things that he did that I have just never forgotten. When he showed up in ECW, the lights went out and then they appeared, and there he was. He did to me what was, I consider, the original pipe bomb. He let loose on the entire business when no one was doing that. And that's why 25 years later we're still talking about that moment. And the other moment, I went to work. I told you the job, it was a normal office job. Every day, worked with these people for years. Wrestling was never the subject. Walk into work that day, and people are going, did you see that thing last night? The guy with the gun? When Brian Pillman pulled the gun on Steve Austin. These are two moments that make Brian Pillman's legacy so memorable. And I will say this, when you pass away young, and you pass away tragically, you wind up with angel's wings where you once had raven's claws. And it just enhanced his whole legend. Those moments preserved him in a time capsule. He's adored by some. He's adored by me. I look at him. He also played huge. We talked about that. Brian Pillman played huge. He could stand in front of somebody and play.
He could fight Big Van Vader, and you could believe that he could take on Big Van Vader.
And I still believe that if he had lived after Vince won the war, I'd like to think that he would have found a spot for Brian Pillman, especially after Stone Cold left. Because, as I said to you, Brian Pillman was the next great Texas loose cannon. And I think he might have been able to at least do something of note if he had lived with Vince. It's sad.
Very well.
I'm a fan.
Very well said, Pharaoh. But
man.
You still haven't pushed me off I still
Dude,
think
you still call CM Punk a twerp.
Yeah,
so where am
true.
I going to get with you? You know.
Anyway, any parting
Go
words?
To sleep, folks.
Any parting words for the fans out there, my friend?
Just as usual, thank us. Thank you. Well, thank us too if you like us. I appreciate that. But thank you.
Yeah. By the
guys
way,
for-
if you can, please hit that like, hit that subscribe button. We'd
you.
really appreciate that. That'd help us out.
Yeah. Thank you for letting us come into your home and do our weekly lunacy. We love you. That's pretty much it, man.
That's it.
There you go.
You've been watching Monte and the Pharaoh, Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. We will see you Saturday, 11 a.m. with ECW legend Bill Alfonso, and next Thursday in a very rare interview with Eugene. And I want to thank James Beard for being on, and he did not shy away from any questions. So if anyone had anything that they wanted to hear about, he didn't shy away from it, and he did a fantastic job, and we thank him for coming on.
Thumbs up.
All right, everybody. Go ahead.
Watching Monte and the Pharaoh, and until next Thursday, actually, no, until Saturday. At 11 a.m.?
Yep, 11 a.m.
He's going to have to call me later.